Per a study done by the American Journal of Preventative Medicine, 40% of police officers are obese. That's not good, but it doesn't have to stay that way. Yes, there are challenges that present themselves when it comes to staying fit while working in law enforcement. Shift work, family life, mandatory overtime, all these different things. But they're not an excuse. You can stay fit even through these challenges. And to let you know just how to do that, I interviewed Ted Stern. He's a former sheriff's deputy, but now co-founder of the top online fitness training platform for first responders, the company Fit Responder. And some of these practical solutions that Ted's about to give you are going to surprise you. Let's get right into it.
When an officer is busy with mandatory overtime, family obligations, and shift work, how can they maintain a healthy level of fitness when they say they don't have time?
It's a real challenge, and I don't see it as just simply an excuse. I think a lot of people don't realize that they can make a lot of progress with not much time and just kind of prioritizing their time differently. I mean, really, if you dedicate 30 minutes per day to your fitness, that could be enough to really make a huge change for most people. I would just say that you need to learn how to make progress more efficient, because I do see people spending 2 hours in the gym and scrutinizing over their diet, and they're not making the right progress because it's not simply effort and time. It's spending your time and your effort efficiently. So if you're not sure how to do that and you feel like you're struggling, I definitely recommend getting a coach. And of course, I'm going to plug myself, check out Fit Responder. But that's where I learned a lot of my things when I was in my younger 20s and I was out of shape. And, I would spend 2 hours on the treadmill. I would be meal prepping, 2 hour long meal prep sessions. And then eventually I learned that there's easier ways to do this. There's grab and go items that require next to no meal prep that I can take, and I don't have to spend a lot of time cooking. There are workouts I can do for 20 minutes that I previously had thought would have no benefit, but really changed my body a lot. And this was stuff I learned through a couple of fitness coaches I had, as well as my wife. So if you are struggling with any of those challenges, just know that there are many people out there who have the same schedule, the same difficulties you do, but they are successful. And it's not because they're better than you. It's because they have the information that has helped them succeed. They've gotten support, I'm sure, from somebody that's given them the right tools. So I would just plainly say, look into some fitness coaching so you can dial in your routine.
I have to ask though, sometimes it's a mental game where people have a hard time getting out of their own way, or they'll tell themselves lies like, well, I'm just big boned, I've always been out of shape, or any other kind of story they've told themselves, thus believe it, thus don't take the right action necessary. What do you say to someone who ultimately deep down knows they have to get out of their own way and stick with fitness, particularly police officers?
Yeah, that's good. And I think it does take a lot of courage to kind of step back for a second, try to look at ourselves objectively, and really try to push away some of those lies we do tell ourselves, because we are very good at that and we will get caught up in the same stories. I've heard 300-pound dudes talk about how big bone they are. I think a huge part of finding your true identity and doing away with these excuses is getting some accountability. And that can be through coaching. But I like to use Alcoholics Anonymous as an analogy. That is a program where people are struggling with very difficult habits, addictions. They've told themselves stories for a long time. They make excuses. And the only information they actually need is stop drinking alcohol. I mean, for real, like that's literally the whole plan of action, let's say. Fitness is much more complicated than that, right? It's more complicated than, hey, why don't you just go work out, eat good food? Like, what does that mean, right? So if people who need to, let's say, beat their alcohol addiction need a dedicated program to do that, maybe you need that for fitness. You need accountability and coaching and somebody to help check you and get you out of your own way, to bounce ideas off of, to look at you objectively and say, hey man, I know you're saying XYZ is a challenge or you believe ABC, but maybe look at it this way, try it this way. And that might push you a little bit outside your comfort zone and get you away from those lies you've been telling yourself.
Diet and nutrition can seem intimidating to some. It can be viewed as complicated. So what's your advice on maintaining a healthy eating lifestyle while working in law enforcement?
I think the biggest thing to do is meal prep. When I say that word, a lot of people say, I don't have time, that's too complicated, I don't cook. Any of those challenges can be overcome. There's meals you could bring that take 1 minute to prep that requires next to no cooking, so you don't have to be a good cook or have a lot of time. So when it comes to meal prep, it's simply bringing your food to work. I mean, pretty much every day for 11 years as a cop, I brought my food with me in a bag. And what that does is it sets yourself up for success because you're not tempted by the fast food. You're not without a meal and then you have to eat the pizza or whatever else is available, you can set yourself up for success in advance, and it will make your future decisions easier. Instead of being like, man, I don't know what to eat, I guess I'll go do whatever. You're like, hey, I already prepped, I already have my food with me. So yeah, start a meal prep routine. You can start very simple. You can get a lot of meals that are already made for you, or a lot of ingredients that are already cooked and ready to go. Start with stuff like that. You throw it in a bag with some ice packs and bring some cold items too in case you can't microwave it, and you'll be successful, much more so.
Found that bringing my lunch to work also helped me save a heck of a lot of money.
Amen. 100%. That's another side bonus is like, I talk to a lot of people, they're spending $500-600 a month eating out. They go switch to meal prep and they're saving all that money. So yeah, it's huge.
Well, let's get to the exercising part. Are there any kind of exercises that you recommend officers do to help with their job performance? I know some don't really think of it that way, but there are some things they can do to help.
There's so many, and it's hard to say if there's any one or any couple that I would suggest because there's so many, but I will say that a huge problem with first responders and especially law enforcement is lower back issues. So first of all, make sure you don't have too much body fat because excess body fat around the belly can exacerbate that problem, but it's also strengthening the core. So for any first responder, I think a good core strengthening routine is really important. And a lot of the exercises you can do will work the core and the other body parts at the same time. I mean, everybody knows what a deadlift is, for example. That not only can build the back and strengthen your legs and your hamstrings, but it also trains you to brace and strengthen your core. So yeah, I mean, long story short, there's a lot of good exercises. First responders need to be well-rounded, both in terms of their strength capabilities as well as endurance and cardio. But if I had to pick one area of focus, you got to have some core work in your routine, just if not for anything else, as a preventative measure so that you don't experience injuries, which are just way too common.
Curiosity's getting the best of me. Do you believe in more on planks, crunches, or just, hey, they're effective either way?
So both things can strengthen the core. I like a plank over crunches because it's going to cause you to do what's referred to as bracing. So that's the core actually isn't necessarily built for curling your body up like a crunch or a sit up. I mean, that's a function that it can do, but really a good, strong, and capable core is actually going to be rigid. It's going to be resistant to bending. It's going to be helping you in those situations where your spine would have gotten out of alignment for whatever reason, but your core is kind of like a protective belt around your spine. So a plank forces you to brace. It forces you to keep that rigidity and kind of that flexing feeling and holding it there, right? So that kind of a thing is going to be much more effective and practical for the core. But you can see bracing in other exercises like squats and deadlifts where you're kind of forced to maintain a position under resistance. And that's going to be a better kind of way to improve the core strength.
Well, Ted, to wrap it up, there's a lot of police officers out there who are stressed out. And statistically, we know about mental health challenges many are up against as well. What general encouragement do you give them? But also, fitness plays a huge role in helping them recover from all this kind of stuff and navigate the inevitable stress, demands, and trauma that they can experience on the job. So what's your final and uplifting word for them?
Well, I can tell you that I can relate. I've struggled with depression through my entire life. And one thing that brings me back is putting in the work, even when I don't feel like it or believe in it. And sometimes when I'm depressed, I'll forget or feel completely unmotivated to do the things that will make me happier, which is talking, right? And communicating to somebody who has an open ear and is just willing to listen. So if you need more than a friend, don't be hesitant to seek a therapist or a counselor or someone qualified. But then also taking care of your health and fitness is astronomically beneficial for your mental health. Pretty much every single client I've ever worked with who's gotten in better shape says, I'm happier, I feel better, I'm in a better mood, I have a new zest for life, because people forget that the brain is part of the body. It's not this separate entity floating around up here. And if your body is not healthy, it can translate to an unhealthy mind. So getting your body healthy and fit, and the research has proven this many times over, is a huge way to improve your mental health. So like I said, if you're depressed right now, you're struggling and you have PTSD, whatever the issues are, anxiety, first of all, talk to people. You're not alone. I promise you. It's not weakness to admit it or talk to someone. Actually, weakness is hiding in your shell and not trying to address it. True strength is actually saying, all right, I got a problem. I need to talk to someone. I need help. And true strength is putting in the work, like working on your fitness and health, going for the walk outside, surrounding yourself with positive influences, staying away from these profiles and social media people who are bringing you down and they're negative, and any negative individuals in your life, and just doing that work, even if it doesn't feel like it's going to do anything, it surely will. So I know I said a lot and maybe a little jumbled there, but get help and have the courage to put in the work.
All profound words. Thank you, Ted. For anyone ready to take their fitness and well-being to the next level, how can they find you?
Yeah, please check out fitresponder.com. fitresponder.com. You can check us out on our social media at FitResponder. Go ahead and apply. We can do a free consultation call to see if it's a good fit. And we also have some great free resources as well. If you're not in the market for coaching at the time, we have some good guides and handouts that can help you out. So check us out, FitResponder.com.